Welcome to the world of Knits Cool. This video will teach you how to knit this super trendy phone pouch using our new post knitting method. Our Knits Cool studio uses simple vertical posts, so there are no needles to hold. It's easy and fun, and you won't get tangled up in knitting needles ever again. For this project, you will need the Knits Cool studio with all of its components and 10 yards of yarn. We will be using the purple yarn from the Knits Cool studio kit. First, select your medium Knits Cool posts and insert them into the holes in the studio. Make sure you hear them click in. Casting on. For this project, you will cast on 5 stitches. To first cast on, take your yarn and find the tail end. Make a slip knot and place it onto the right post, like this. Then, twist to make a loop and place it onto the right post. Tighten the loop until it is snug. Now make another loop and place that onto the right post as well. Continue to do this until you have 5 stitches on your post. Make sure your yarn is looped through the yarn holder. This is super important because it keeps your yarn towards the back and helps you make perfect stitches. Knitting rows. Okay, let's start knitting. Remove the first stitch from the right post and pull the yarn through it. This makes a new loop, and then you just pop that onto the left post. Tighten it up a little by pulling on the yarn. Now take the next stitch from the right post and pull the yarn through it, and place it onto the left post again. So now you keep doing this until all the stitches are knit onto the left post and there are no more stitches on the right post. Keep in mind that this row is the most finicky, as your first stitches are just twisted loops and not fully formed yet. After this, your stitches will be a breeze to knit. You have now knit 1 row. Go check your row counter and make sure that the button is set to 1. So now, knit all of these stitches back onto the right post. Now keep in mind, at this point you're probably thinking, my stitches look wrong and don't look anything like knitted fabric. But actually, that's the way they're supposed to look. A little messy looking. So don't worry, just keep going. Once your knitting starts to grow, you'll see your work looking more and more like a knitted design. You have now knit 2 rows. You can click to number 2. Alright, let's continue knitting back and forth until you have reached 25 rows. Okay, now that you've finished your 25 rows, your project should look like this. Now let's cast off. This is the fun part. The first step is to knit 2 stitches onto the opposite post. By now I'm sure you can do this with your eyes closed. Then simply grab the bottom stitch and slip it over the top stitch, and let it go. Next, knit another stitch onto the post, so you now have 2 stitches on this post again. Grab the bottom stitch and slip it over the top stitch. Keep doing this until you only have 1 remaining stitch on the post. Now take this 1 stitch with your project off the post completely and thread the tail through the loop. And tighten. You should have a neat finished edge like this. Alright, now that you're finished with the knitting part, let's sew your pouch together. Fold the fabric in half with the good side facing out. You're going to sew together one side of the pouch, then thread the yarn through the bottom, then sew up the other side. The first thing you are going to do is take your sewing needle that comes to the studio and thread the yarn through it. Then, with the edges together, insert the needle into a few loops on both sides of the pouch. Now don't worry about exactly which loops to sew, as long as you catch some loops on each side and that they're somewhat across from each other. The trick here is to make your stitches snug, but not too tight. You want to keep your pouch in a rectangle shape. Once you've finished sewing this side, run your thread along the bottom of the pouch. This cool little trick is so that you don't have to clip your sewing yarn and start again in order to sew up the other side. Then, once you reach the other side, sew up that side until you reach the top of the pouch again. There, you're done! Now before you clip your yarn, make sure to tie a knot. You can remove the needle for this part if you like. Now for the strap. If you want, you can tie a strap to only one side of the pouch, or not make a handle at all. It's totally up to you. Measure out how long you want your strap, and tie it to one side of the pouch. Then tie the other end to the other side. Now if you'd like to customize your pouch even more, you can add tassels. To make tassels, cut lengths of yarn to your liking. But remember, each strand will be folded in half, and that will be the length of the tassel. I'm going to make 4 tassels. So now, take your first strand and fold it in half. Then take your crochet hook that comes with the Studio and insert it into a loop at the bottom corner of your pouch. Hook the yarn and pull it through the pouch, but not all the way. Wasn't that easier than you thought? Now continue adding the rest of the tassels to your pouch. Now let's add a button charm. First, cut a length of yarn at least 6 inches long. Using your sewing needle, thread the yarn starting from the inside of the pouch where you want the charm to go. Keep one end of the yarn hanging on the inside. Now thread the charm onto the needle. Then thread the yarn back into the inside of the pouch. Now you should have both ends of the yarn on the inside. Then all you have to do is tie the ends together. This is a nifty little trick so you don't have to worry about your ends showing through. So that's it! You just made your very own Knits Cool phone pouch.